Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes. Can the class governor just indicate so that I can make you a co-host? All the class governor can indicate. I'll just make you guys co-host. You just indicate by raising the hand, and then I'll make you co-host.
There is Andy.
Okay. Once again, good afternoon to you all. I deliberately delayed the class to 2:30 because I know some high students might want to join us, and I don't want them to miss the class. My name is Professor Adeleke. I'm from the Department of Actuarial Science and Insurance. And I'll be starting FBA 220. FBA 220 is one of the two business statistics courses that we'll be taking. The title of the course is Business Statistics 1. It is the descriptive part of the course, and I can say that it's the simpler part of the FBA courses that you will be doing. I will be taking the introductory part. My job is to discuss the basic terms with you, the basic terms that you will be coming across with during the entire course. So like you have on the screen, the title of today's class is Introduction to Basic Concepts as part of the FBA 220. The recommended text is Statistics for Business and Economy by Anderson, Sweeney, and William. I have soft copy that I can share with you if you don't mind. But feel that you can get your copy, please feel free. So, but if you need a copy, you will let me know. I can share them with you through your class governor. So these are some of the objectives for this lecture. I will be defining statistics to us, and I will be differentiate between the two branches of statistics, the descriptive and inferential as far as business statistics is concerned. And then we will also look at data. Data according to source, data according to its nature. So that's the summary of what we'll be doing, and I hope you will enjoy it at the end of the day. Please feel free to call my attention to any observation, any question, or any concerns that you have during the course. Just raise your hand. I will attend to you. So the course is statistics, like I said. As far as this FBA 50 is concerned, the statistics we are dealing with is actually a field of study. It's a field of study that deals with how data are collected, how data are analyzed, how they are organized, how they are interpreted for the sake of decision making. Some of us, please, you guys should please mute yourself, please. Well, I have to mute everyone. You guys should kindly follow the ethics of online classes. Mute yourself. If you have any observation, any question, just raise your hand. I'll give you audience. So please try as much as possible to allow a smooth flow. Okay, so once again, I said that the course is FBA 220, which is Business Statistics 1. And the first concept we are introducing is statistics itself. So the statistics we are dealing with here, it's actually a discipline. It's a field of study. A field of study that deals with how data is collected. A field of study that deals with how data is organized, how data is analyzed, how data is presented and interpreted for the purpose of decision making. So you wanted to know how your customers will react to a new product. So you can decide to do a market survey. So how do you conduct the market survey? How do you select your sample? How many samples should you select? How should you administer the product on your selected sample? Which area should you conduct the survey? All of these questions will be answered using statistical techniques. So the field of study that gives or that equip the decision maker on how data should be collected, data should be analyzed, data should be presented is statistics. So the statistics we are discussing here is actually a course. It's actually a discipline, as we can see. So statistics is widely applicable. The accounting field makes use of statistics a lot. If you want to sample, you need statistics. You want to do regression analysis, investigate whether there's a relationship between two variables. You need statistics. You want to test the truthfulness of some statements. You need statistics. Also in economics, you will want to monitor trend. You want to compute the GDP. You want to investigate the behavior of the forex. You want to investigate the interest rate as it relates to the GDP. You need statistics. So statistics is very, very applicable even in the field of marketing. Like I said at the beginning of the class, you want to do a market survey. You are testing, investigating the acceptability of your product by your customer. You want to improve on your market penetration. So you need statistical tools to get that done. Even in production, you are monitoring the quality of your product. You want to check and be sure that your product meets the minimum standard. You want to check whether your product is fit for purpose. Statistics is required to achieve all those. Even in finance, we now have the popular financial engineering. It's all application of statistical tools, econometrical tools, and so on. So statistics is a very, very applicable field, uh, and even the statistical tools are very, very useful in decision making. You need to understand your current process. You need to understand how your process have evolved from the past, and then you want to make projection into the future. You need the knowledge of statistics to get those done. Remember, I started by defining what statistics is. I said statistics is a field of study. It is a discipline that will guide us on how data are collected, on how data are presented, on how data are analyzed, and how data are summarized for the purpose of decision making. And statistics have been found useful in almost every field because decision needed to be made. And for you to make decision, there's need for data. How do you collect the data? How do you manipulate it so that you'll be able to take the right decision? Statistics is very, very useful in those regards. However, let's look at some terms that are very, very important in statistics, and those terms are the terms that we will be using uh, throughout this course. So let's look at data. Data have been propping up since I've started defining statistics. Data. So as far as we are concerned, we define our data as facts and figures. Facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Data are facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. So if you want to take any decision, you need data. Okay? So as far as we are concerned, we define our data as facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Toward the end of today's class, I will be looking at data according to how we source them. I will also look at data according to their nature. So we will now define data as being quantitative, qualitative, data as being primary and secondary. as we move on. So another term that we'll be making use of is population. Population. Now, as far as FBA 220 is concerned, we define population as the aggregate of all units of a specified type in a target universe. That is the collection of well-defined units in a target universe. That's what population is all about. When you collect. So, for example, this is FBA 220 class. So if I want to describe the population, I would say it is made up of 200 level business administration or faculty of management science students. 200 level faculty of management science students. That means the collection of 200 level faculty of management science students. The class is made up of accounting, 200 level, actuarial science, 200 level, insurance, 200 level, ER and HRM, 200 level, finance, 200 level, and business, 200 level. So that is what I have put together as the population. It is not the number. It is actually what constitutes, okay, the universe that you are looking at. So we define population as the collection of well-defined objects in a target universe. However, if you are looking at the constituents of a population, if you are looking at the number of the units in a population, then what you have will be population units. Population units. So population units will be the constituents, the members of a population. So, and then the population size will now be the total number of units in a population. Okay? The member of a population is population unit. When you count all of them, you will have the population size. Population itself is the collection. Okay? Collection of well-defined objects, collection of well-defined units in a target universe. So when you put everything together, you have the population of the object or the units that you have put together. So another term that we'll be looking at is sample. 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 A sample is a fractional part of the population. A sample is a subset of a population. Remember that we define our statistics as the body of knowledge, as a discipline, as a field that deals with how data, as a field that deals with how data are collected, how data are analyzed, how data are presented, how data are interpreted for the purpose of decision making. So if statistics is so much about data, so what is data itself? So we have defined data as facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Then I defined population. I said population is the collection of well-defined objects in a target universe. Collection of well-defined objects in a target universe. That the constituents of a population, they are the population units. And when you count all the constituents, you will have the population size. Mind you, population need not be countable. When you are done with today's class, remember you will go to your hostel to go and cook. The entire pot of whatever you are cooking is the population. The entire pot is the population. The part that you take out to serve yourself or serve your friend, that part is the sample, because it is part of that population, but not the entire. So that's why we said a sample is a fractional part of a population. It is the subset of a population. The entire blood in you is the population. But when you go for a lab test, when you go for a blood test, the lab technician takes what from your body? Takes sample of blood from you. That sample is a fractional part of the entire blood in you. So that fractional part is the sample. So population is the collection of every unit. Sample is a fractional part or a subset of a population. Now let's look at another term that we'll be making use of as we move on. Parameter. Parameter. Parameter is another term that we'll be making use of. A parameter, as far as we are concerned, is a function. A parameter is a function that represents the entire population. So if I am interested in your average age, and I have now gone to the records, either through CITS or through the department or through your course advisors, I decide
You
to
know,
get
they digging out
everybody's
videos
age.
of other bullies in the school.
I got everybody's
Hey,
age, and then I computed the average. That average is representing the entire population.
now see your child get
Now,
that.
They are giving me food. They are giving me food. They are
all right, so once again, I will advise us to mute ourselves so that we can have a smooth lecture. So I was defining a parameter. I define a parameter as a function that represents the entire unit of a population. Function that represents the entire unit of a population. So I was giving example of the average age of students in this class. So if I had gone into the records, either through your course advisors or through CITS or through any means, any other source that all your details can be found. So if I decide to pull your age off, your ages off, and then compute the average represents the entire population. That average is called the parameter because it is representing the entire population. So any function at all that is defined on the population unit is called a parameter. So I can have population mean, I can have population variance, I can have population standard deviation, I can have population proportion, and so on. As long as it represents all the units in the population, that is a parameter. So another term that we'll be discussing is statistic. Statistic. When you have many of them, they become statistics. It is different from the statistics that are defined earlier. Remember the statistics we defined at the beginning of the course of the class? I said statistics is a body of knowledge. It is a field that deals with how data can be collected, analyzed, presented, summarized for the purpose of decision making. But this particular statistic is a function. A statistic is a function of all the units in a sample. A statistic is a function of all the units in a sample. just as you have parameter going for the entire population, statistic is going for the sample. Remember the relationship between the two of them, between parameter and, between population and sample. Population represents the entirety, collection of every unit. Sample is a fractional part, is a subset of that population. So if you define a function on a population, that function is a parameter. However, if you define a function on sample, that function is a statistic. Okay, so a statistic is a function defined on sample unit. So therefore, you can have sample mean. Sample mean. That means a part of the population, I have decided to calculate their mean. I am not calculating the mean for the entire population, but calculating mean for a part of the population. The mean for that part of the population is called a statistic. A statistic. So I can have population standard deviation. Sample standard deviation. That's another statistic. I can have sample proportion. That's another statistic. Any function at all that represents the units in a sample is called a statistic. However, the function defined on the entire population is called a parameter. It's called a parameter. So let's quickly do a review of what we have done. I started by defining of knowledge is actually a field of study. Field of study that will give you that skill that you need for collecting data, analyzing it, and interpreting it for the purpose of decision making. And if statistics is about data, then what is data itself? I define data as facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Then I've also defined population. Population of all units of a specified type in a target universe. Aggregate, collection of all units of a specified type in a target universe. Then I defined sample. Sample. We said sample is a fractional part of a population. Fractional part of a population. However, remember I also mentioned sample unit. I said the constituent of a population is the population unit. Constituent of a population is the population unit. The constituent of a sample is sample, they are sample units. So when you count all the units in a population, what you have is the population size. When you count all the units in a sample, what you have will be sample size. Please don't mix population with population size. Population means collection. Population size means the head count, okay, of all the units. Then I defined parameter. I said a parameter is a function. A function defined over the population. That's a parameter. So I can have population mean. I can have population variance. I can have population proportion. I can have population standard deviation. So also, we have defined statistics. Statistic. I said a statistic is a function of all the units in a sample. A statistic is a function of all the units in a sample. So you can have again, I had to mute everyone. I want us to just please follow the etiquette of online classes. Mute yourself. If you need to say anything, just raise your hand. I will give you audience. Please allow the class to run smoothly. So I might be forced to remove the students that is always creating this noisy background. But I don't want to do that. So please, let's cooperate with ourselves so that we can have a smooth lecture. So I was defining parameter and statistic, and I hope the concept is well understood. Now let us look at census. Census. Census is another term that we'll be making use of during this FBA 220. Census. A census is the complete enumeration of all the units in a population, including the collection of vital statistics. A census is the complete enumeration of all the units in a population, including the collection of vital statistics. That means it goes beyond getting the population size. Remember what population size is? It's just the head count, total head count of all the units in a population. So you don't just do the head count, you will also have to collect other information like biometry, like gender, and so on. Okay, so when you collect other vital information alongside head count, what you are doing is census. Census. So just as we have parameter going for population, statistic going for sample, now we have census going for population. We also have another term, sample survey. Sample survey. Sample survey goes with sample. Sample survey can be defined as a mini census. A mini census conducted on sample. A mini census conducted on carefully selected sample from the population. So on the population, you will do census, complete head count, and then collect other information. On the sample, you will do sample survey. You will do your head count, and then you also collect some vital information. Okay, so please note all these terms. They are very key for FBA 220. So another term that we'll be making use of is estimation. 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 An estimation is the process by which the value of the population parameter can be computed. So I needed to compute the average age for FBA 220 class. And I know that I need data. So I'll go through the process of getting in touch with either CITS, getting in touch with either course advisor, getting in touch with any individual that I know will assist me with data collection. After getting the data, I will now summarize it. I will compute, I will present, I'll do all sorts of manipulation and then come up with a mean. Remember, I wanted to calculate the population mean. I collected data and then do all sorts of presentation and analysis and so on, and then I computed my mean. The whole process by which you go through to calculate the value of the population parameter is called estimation. Now, the value that you arrived at is called the estimate. The value that you arrived at is called the estimate. The formula that you use, or the algorithm that you use is called the estimator. Remember, the whole process is estimation. The value that you arrived at is called the estimate. The formula that you use is called the estimator. Estimate is the value that we arrived at after the process of estimation. The value, the end result is called the estimate. The formula that you use, summation x all over n, that formula is called an estimator. Okay? Estimator. Now, another term that we'll be making use of is sampling. Sampling. We'll be making use of sampling. Okay? Now, let us go back to your kitchen. Remember that when you are done with this class, you will quickly rush to your hostel and then make a sumptuous meal for yourself. Remember, that is what you will do when you are done with this class. So, again, I had to mute all just because some of us that have refused to follow the etiquette of online class. So, I was discussing sampling. So, so I'm taking you back to your kitchen. When you are done with the class, you rush down to your hostel and then cook yourself a sumptuous meal. While you are cooking, if you are about concluding the cooking, remember that you will need to check whether the sauce that you have added to your cooking is right. Let's assume that you are cooking a stew for yourself. When you are about concluding it, you start stirring, you will stir, and then you take a part of it, you will taste. After your observation, you will decide to add maybe a little bit of salt or a little bit of other materials just to make sure that your food is tasty. The whole process, okay, that you go through for you to take a part of that population is called sampling. The whole process. Oh, I have to stir it. Oh, I have to shake the pot. Oh, I have to, turn the whole thing upside down and so on, just for me to now take a spoon full of the food for my tasting. So that is sampling. So sampling is the procedure by which samples are taken from the population. Sampling is the procedure by which samples are taken from the population. So I hope you are getting it now. So that procedure that you go through for you to take a sample from a population is called sampling. Then we have sampling frame. Sampling frame. A sampling frame is a list, L-I-S-T. A sampling frame is a list or a map, M-A-P, or any other acceptable material from which samples can be taken. You know, if I have a registered list like your broadsheet, your broadsheet will contain your names and then other results. That broadsheet can be used as my frame because from it, if I want to select student at random, from that broadsheet, I can do my selection. So any material that contains the list of the entire population is called the sampling frame because from that list, you can generate your sample. So remember, a sampling is the procedure by which samples are taken from a population. The list that contains all the units of a sample, all the units of a population from which sample can be taken is called a sampling frame. A sampling frame.
Yeah. Please, can you say that sampling frame again? Is a list or a map or any other material that does what? Don't know if you can hear me. I'm saying spelling that you should say.
A sampling frame is a list, L-I-S-T, or a map, M-A-P, or any other acceptable material from which sample can be taken. A list or a map or any other acceptable material from which sample can be taken. That's what a sampling frame is. So now let us do a recap of what we have done so that we will all be on the same page. Remember, we started by defining statistics. We said statistics that we are referring to, as far as FBA 2.0 is concerned, it's a discipline, it's a body of knowledge that deals with how data can be collected, how data can be summarized, how data can be presented, how data can be analyzed, how data can be interpreted for the purpose of decision making. That is what statistics is all about. So if we now say business statistics, what we are dealing with is just the use of statistical tools to take business decision. That's what business statistics is. Business statistics is the use of statistical tools to take business decision. Now, while we are defining statistics, the word data, is prominent. Data we define as facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Data, they are facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. And I said, towards the end of today's class, I will describe data according to how you have sourced them, the way you have collected them. We'll also describe data according to their nature. Some data are in numeric form, some are not. After defining data, we talked about population. I defined population as the collection, just like your set. We define set as a collection of well-defined objects. It is the same thing. Population here is the collection of well-defined units in a target universe. That means there has to be a bound. It has to be with respect to a particular group, a particular location, with respect to a particular space that you define your population, collection of well-defined unit in a target universe. And then I said the constituent of your population, they are population units. When you count all the units in the population, what you have is the population size. And I want you, please don't mix population with population size. Population size is a figure. Population itself is a collection. And I describe the population of this class as 200 level Faculty of Management Science students. That's what we have. Collection of 200 level Faculty of Management Science students. Then we defined sample. We said a sample is a fractional part of a population. That small part of it, the subset of a population. Then we define the sample size. Sample size here will be the total number of units in a sample. After which we introduce parameter. We said a parameter is a function of all the units in a population. While statistic is a function of all the units in a sample. Then we define census. We said a census is a complete enumeration of all the units in the population, including the collection of vital statistics. Then we also define sample survey. We said it is a mini census defined over the population units. After that, we moved to estimation. Estimation. We said an estimation is the procedure of calculating the value of the population parameter. The value that you arrived at is called the estimate. The end result is the estimate. The formula that you use, the algorithm that you use is the estimator. Estimator. Then we defined sampling. Sampling is the procedure that you go through in selecting a sample from a population. I illustrated using our kitchen scenario. Then I defined sampling frame. Sampling frame. A sampling frame is a list, LIST, or a map, MAP, or any other acceptable material from which sample can be taken. Okay, that is what we have discussed so far. So we have a glossary, as I've shown on the screen, the glossary of terms that you can read up on your own. I will share this slide at the end of this class. So what I need from you is somebody doing me a hi. Then I will send it to you. So just do me a hi on my WhatsApp. I will send it to you. Or I can send it through Dr. Ajijola. And then also, the textbook, if you are interested, I can forward it to you as well. Just ensure that everybody in the class has a copy. Okay? But if you, on your own, if you can access it, please go ahead and get a copy for yourself. All right? So let's continue. So remember, we have said so much about data. We said data, the facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. So there are no issue with that. So there are other terms that we also will be using, like a variable. For instance, a variable. So a variable is the characteristics of interest that is measured on the population unit. A variable is the characteristic of interest that is measured on the population unit. For example, if I am interested in your age, so as I move from one unit to the other, your age will differ. So I go to candidate or student number 1, his age is 21 years. Student number 2, his age is 17 years. Student number 3, the age is 18 years. The age will vary from student to student. That is the characteristics of interest that I'm measuring. If I'm interested in the student sex, then a student can be male, can be female, or can be any other thing that the student wants to be. That is also a variable because that is the characteristics of interest that are measured on the population. The population units themselves, they are called elements. Okay? The population units themselves, they are called elements. And whatever information you get from them, they are your observations. They are your observation. I hope you understand why I'm doing this. I'm laying the foundation for the course. It is an introductory lecture. I'll lay the foundation and then other lecturer will build on it. Okay, so that is what I normally do. Now look at the data sets that we have on the screen. So the data is on stock, is stock data. So you have the company names. The companies are Dataram, Energy South, Keystone, Landcare, and so on. And they are quoted on different stock exchange. So you can see the exchange where they are quoted. So you have the NASDAQ, let's just call it NQ. Energy South and Keystone, they are quoted on N. And then Landcare is quoted on NO, NO. And then you have the annual sales. The annual sales, they are 73.1, 74.00, that's 365.70, 111.4, and so on, representing the sales for each of the company. And then you also have the earning per share. Now looking at the information, the variables, they are the stock exchange, the annual sales, and the earning per share. They are variables. They are the characteristics of interest that is measured on the population unit. Population unit, they are the elements. What are the elements? The companies. Okay? The companies. And then what information did you collect from them? You collected information on the stock exchange, the annual sales, and the earning per shares. So, and then the value that you got, they are the observations. All your NQ, 73.10, 0.86, 1.67, they are our observations. So this is how data and data set are interacting. Variable, elements, and observation, these are their relationship. Okay? So the entire information is a data set. Now, for our course, our business statistics is divided
You gave
into
me something
two.
to do. I'm about that day. That's why. The Papa. Tell me what she just wanted to do because I see no reason to go into the matter. You should hear first stand this.
You see why I like making the class governors co-host, so they will assist in muting students that are violating the rule. So please. So we said our statistics, we have two. We have statistics 1 and we have statistics 2. Statistics 1 is FBA 220. FBA 220 is largely descriptive, while FBA 310, by the time you get to year 3, FBA 310 is largely inferential.
Please, sir. What is
Yes,
precious?
if you have question, please ask your question.
What is physiology?
This is FBA 220. There's no physiology here.
Could you explain examples of sir? What is the meaning of physics?
Okay, so our statistics, we have descriptive and inferential. Descriptive only describes our data either with the use of table,
Descriptive and
with the use of
extension,
graphs,
right?
or with the use of summary measure.
Infection or discursive.
So we have two. Our statistics can be descriptive or inferential. But descriptive, basically what is being done is to describe the data either with the use of tables, with the use of graphs, or some summary measures, such as measures of location, measures of dispersion, and also measures of skewness. And then we also have inferential statistics. Inferential statistics deals largely with inference making, either through hypothesis testing, estimation, or regression analysis. So in FBA 220, we are covering descriptive statistics. By the time you get to FBA 310, we shall cover inferential statistics. Remember, we're just dealing with introduction to FBA 220. So I have described the parameter and statistic earlier. Parameter is a function representing the entire population. statistic is a function representing the sample. So usually we make use of this symbol, a Greek letter called mu. This is mu. Mu. Mu represents this population mean. Mu. This is sigma squared. Sigma squared. Sigma represents the population standard deviation. Sigma squared is the variance. Sigma on its own represents the population standard deviation, while sigma squared represents the variance of the population. Variance of the population. Mu is the population mean. Mu is the population mean. Sigma squared is the population variance. Sigma is the population standard deviation. Please get used to them. However, for sample, remember we're talking about sample, that statistic is a function of all the units in a sample. Okay, so X bar is used to denote sample mean. Sample mean. S squared is used to denote sample standard, sample variance. Sample variance. But if I remove the square, I found the square root, I got S, that could be the sample standard deviation. Sample standard deviation. Now look at it again. Mu is the sample mean. Mu is the population mean, sorry. Mu is the population mean. Sigma squared is the population variance. Sigma is the population standard deviation. However, X bar is the sample mean. S squared is the sample variance. S is the standard deviation. Okay, so now this is the procedure for making inference. This we'll discuss later. You can see out of a population is the blue, is the entire blue circle. You take a part of it, you observe it, and then you make a general statement about the population. That is what inference is all about. You take a little part and then you make judgment of the entire. Look at you in the kitchen. You have taken just 1 spoon of rice. You have taken just 1 spoon of soup. And then you make a judgment that, yes, the sauce is right. Oh, no, let's add a little salt. So what you are doing is simply performing inference. You are making inference from that small part that you are taking. You are practicing statistics in the kitchen. Okay, now let's look at data according to their form. Data, that information, we said data, they are facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Facts and figures that are analyzed for decision making. Now, that data can be qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative or quantitative. So when you say quantitative, it means they take numerical form. They are in figures. Now, when they are in figures, they are either discrete or continuous. When they are in figures, they are either discrete or continuous. So when you say they are discrete, it simply means that that data is countable. You can use natural numbers to denote them. 1, 2, 10 factories, 1 million factories. They are counts. Counts. Now, the other one is continuous data. Continuous data. Continuous data, they are also quantitative data. They are numeric data, but they are not countable. They are measurements. Measurements. Interest rate is measurement. Your age is a measurement. Your weight is a measurement. Your returns from investment, they are measurements. So they are not just whole numbers. They can include fractions, decimal points. So continuous data, they are from set of real numbers. Remember, discrete, they represent whole numbers. Then continuous, they represent
to the same September to come out. Give us a when is it coming out? Yeah. And what do we ended in our wedding? You know, she killed that man. That man. But it's not a fault now. She killed. I'm just no center. She should not give me spoilers. You killed that man to end her friend's sorrows. It's not bad. And her son.
Mute yourself.
Actually, they grow. Not like. That boy, he didn't tell anybody. She gave birth to children. Yes, when she was a child. Like
Priscilla, you.
This one is Georgia. I didn't to call her. Georgia and Virginia. The woman is Georgia. The woman is Georgia. Why the other girl? Her name is Virginia. So this call her Virginia. Without a boyfriend, Marcus. I love that. She better release something amazing. What is it like that? Yeah. Not like sex education. Only for Wednesday. Very useless. So
sorry.
Hello. I like
hello.
So.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Yes. So please, can you please mute yourself so that we can continue? The network is fluctuating, so but I will share the screen once the network is stable. I'm using two devices just to ensure that there's a smooth. So the other device is the one that shared the material. So just hold on. I want to share the document. All right, done. So I was discussing data according to their form. So I said data can be qualitative, that they can be quantitative. That when they are quantitative, they are discrete or they are continuous. Those
Priscilla, whatever your name is, mute yourself, bro. Nonsense.
all right. Still appealing to you guys to ensure that you follow the etiquette of online classes. So when you unmute, you create so much noise in the background, and then you are denying others of a smooth lecture. So I was going through different forms that our data can be. So when they are quantitative, I've told us that They can be discrete, they can be continuous. Discrete simply means whole numbers, okay? They represent count, number of factories, number of cars imported, um, number of workers, number of universities. These are whole numbers. However, for continuous data, they are also numeric, but they arise as a result of measurement. Okay, so interest rate is measurement, your salary is measurement, the tax that you pay is measurement, your age is measurement, and so on. So those data can come from the set of real numbers. That means they do not necessarily have to be whole numbers. So you can have them as decimals, you can have them as fractions, and so on, right? And then we also have qualitative data. Qualitative data. Those data, they are either representing labels. So the one that you see is not just ordinary one. It represents label. You know, I can decide to say, I can assign 1 to male, 2 to female. I can assign 1 to represent high, and then assign 2 to represent low. So that means the one that you see, they are not actually numeric, they're not actually quantitative. They represent classification. All right? So they represent classification. So they are either numeric as well or non-numeric. So when they are numeric, those figures that you see, they can represent classification or they can represent order. Look at the salary scale. Some are on salary scale 01, 02, 03, 04, 05. You might be tempted to look at 01 as a whole number, but no, they represent order. They represent some arrangement. So some people are new entrants into maybe the civil service, so they put them on the grade level 01. Some have been there for a while, they can be on grade level 02, and then you continue that to grade level 17 or whatever. So those figures are not just whole number, they represent arrangement. Then you also have classification. So you can have 1 representing male, 2 representing female. Those are classification. And that's what we mean by nominal. Nominal means classification. Ordinal. Ordinal means arrangement. Okay? So those data that you see, they can represent ordinal or nominal. Nominal represents classification. Ordinal represents an arrangement in an order. So your gender, for instance, can classify you as male, female, others. That is nominal. Okay, so then I can say, okay, you have joined boxing, and then I classify you as featherweight, lighter weight, heavyweight, super heavyweight. Those are ordinal. Okay, they are an arrangement in a order. And then if we are looking at data according to how you source them, data can be primary or secondary. When you say primary data, it means that you have put up the process that generates that data. So primary data are data that are generated from source, data collected from source by the researcher. They are mostly collected either through direct observation, experimentation, or by the conduct of sample survey. Primary data. They are data that are collected directly by the researcher. And I said they are either collected through direct observation, through experimentation, or through sample survey. However, secondary data, they are data that you collect from data collection agencies, from websites, from repositories, from libraries, from journals, from CDs. Any data at all that you did not generate, somebody else have generated it. summarized and stored somewhere. That data that you're collecting is secondary. So please note this as we move on. If we mention secondary data, you should know what we are talking about. These are different sources of data. So you can collect data from the business database, from government agencies like CBN, and so on, from internet, and so on. Okay, so still part of data, how you collect your data, experimentation, you can do direct observation, and so on. Now, what dictates the kind of data that you collect is the sometimes requirements. You might not have the time to start taking direct observation. You can decide to go to the repository because it saves time. Cost too is also consideration. And then the error. If you are not sure of the data being collected, then and you don't want to take the risk of accommodating the error, then you can go ahead and collect the data yourself. All those key factors are very, very important in deciding the level of data to collect. So we will stop there for today. In our next class, I will be updating my PowerPoint as we move on. Okay, so I'll update and also share with you. So I hope today's class has been educative. So I'm ready to take your questions if you have any. Otherwise, we shall declare the class closed. Do you have questions, please? Is anybody having question?
We don't have question in the class.
Sir, please, can
All
you
right.
send the slides?
Yes, I will. I just needed
Yes, sir.
a class governor to chat
Sir,
me up
please, can
on
you
the
send the
slide.
slides?
Yes, I will
Is
share
it
it.
possible to send it here? I have a question.
All right.
Sir, please,
So
can you
what
send
shall
the
we do?
slides?
I will share it.
Sir, please, I have a question.
Yes, ask your
Oh
question,
God.
please.
Okay, when you're talking about parameter, you said something about function. Please, can you explain that function?
Yes. Oh, function can be a formula. Any expression that you write that will require you to use all the information in your population. That is your parameter. Okay. So I can say summation x over n, and my n is capital N, representing the entire population. Then that's a function. That is also a parameter.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, so I'll declare the class closed. So I wish you guys a happy day. Bye bye.
Sir, please, the
Bye.
textbook also. Hello.